Alright, welcome back to Simpin Sundays. In today's video, we're going to be featuring Nihilego, and Nihilego is going to be playing the role of Ninomae Ina'nis from Hololive. This will be the first of many Hololive videos, I'm sure. Now, because we don't want to blow the entire Hololive production on one or two videos, we're only going to be featuring Ina, and all the rest of the Pokemon on the team are just going to be there. They're not going to have names or anything like that, because we need to save all the rest of the girls for future videos. But Nihilego today will be running the standard Power Herb Meteor Beam set. This set has been very strong ever since the DLC came out that allowed us to get Meteor Beam. And the rest of the moves on this are going to be pretty standard. Sludge Wave is a secondary stab option, and Thunderbolt helps you break through some water types that otherwise might give Nihilego a problem. And Grass Knot is very important, especially in this tier with Swampert running around. You need that as well to break through ground types and water types. I think that you might want to replace Thunderbolt with Power Gem, because Power Gem is really nice to be able to hit Pokemon with a good strong rock move without having to resort to wasting your Meteor Beam. Or maybe you've already used your Meteor Beam and you need another rock move. But Thunderbolt is nice for Pokemon. Another notable example would be maybe Skarmory, where Meteor Beam will do quite a lot to it, but over repeated Meteor Beams it could be an issue, and Thunderbolt will take it down really nice and fast. So that comes down to personal preference. In any case, this particular set has a little bit of bulk. I don't know what that bulk is there for. This is just the standard Nihilego to give you. But what I do know is that the main reason they didn't max out the special attack is because you're trying to get a speed beast boost. So if you look at the special attack, the stat comes out to 334 and the speed stat comes out to 335. The way beast boost works is that whichever stat is highest is the one that gets boosted. And Nihilego is already going to get a +1 in its special attack from Meteor Beam, and oftentimes at the end of the game you're going to want to have speed instead of special attack, and so having your beast boost your speed when Meteor Beam is boosting your special attack allows you to go on a mini sweep at the end. So generally speaking, Nihilego's job is to sweep at the end. Is not really usually good in the earlier mid games, and you'll sort of see today some of the limitations of Nihilego. Anyway, on the next up we've got Magneton. Now, I recently made a video about really bad Pokemon, or what makes Pokemon bad, and one of the Pokemon I put on the list was Magneton. Magneton used to be a UU staple, or a UU Staplemon, but now it's not even close to UU. And I think that Magneton still actually does have a decent niche in the UU tier, but I'm actually going to take it a little bit different today. I'm going to be running a Choice Specs Magneton. Choice Specs Magneton can stand on its own because instead of having to worry about what it's going to trap, it's just going to be a strong special attacker. It has 120 special attack, which is quite good, and it has a decent 70 base speed tier. Now, 70 speed isn't very good if you're trying to be fast, and so Magneton's going to be outsped by a lot. But Analytic Choice Specs really hits quite hard, and so Magneton can usually blow through a lot of fat Pokemon. And Ina usually has some difficult times breaking through fat without having a Meteor Beam boost up. So that's useful. Toxic is in the last slot specifically for Swampert because it will resist both of your stabs. Otherwise, you're going to be wanting to click Flash Cannon usually on ground types, and then Thunderbolt and Volt Switch are there to do massive damage to just about everything else. So this is a really fun set. You can oftentimes trick people into thinking that they're trapped because normally Magneton will trap you with Magnet Pull, and so they'll stay in on you, and you'll get tons of damage off for free on them as well. So that's really nice. Swampert is running a Spadef set because I want to have an answer to a lot of special attackers in the tier. And I'm running Ice Beam for things like Tapu Bulu that might want to come in, or Mungus, and then Toxic is still quite good. Earth Power is in the last slot, but you could replace that with Toxic. I just thought it was good because I don't like having Swampert that doesn't have a ground type move. But I wasn't going to run Earthquake. Earthquake is oftentimes better than Earth Power, but Earthquake and Tapu Bulu don't synergize well, so we're going with Earth Power. It's definitely not the most optimal Swampert set, but I still wanted a Swampert, and I didn't want to forego the ground type move, and I still really do think Ice Beam is quite nice for a lot of Pokemon. Skarmory is here for hazards. It's going to have spikes, and so that'll make it so my opponent is more likely to get rid of hazards. So this isn't a defogging Skarmory, it's a spike Skarmory, which I think is probably better anyway. It's got Whirlwind to phase out Pokemon, and Body Press is there because that's going to be the best stat that you got to work with, so it'll do the most damage usually. Hydreigon is just going to be running Choice Scarf to give this team somewhat of speed control. Now, I'm not entirely familiar with the UU tier, and I don't know how useful speed control is. Based off of my experience today, I feel like this wasn't as useful, but you'll see what I mean when I get into it. But yeah, this is just a standard Choice Scarf Hydreigon set. Finally, we're running Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu is very important to this team because it acts as a strong physical attacker, which I don't have any others on my team. It's mostly special attackers, and Tapu Bulu will allow me to punch holes into special walls. And we don't really see a Chansey today, which is fortunate. So close combat wasn't missed, and the rest of the moves on this set really do put in work. Horn Leech is your main stab option. Not only is it quite powerful in grassy terrain, but it allows you to get some form of recovery. Stone Edge is crucial for Pokemon like Moltres, and Zen Headbutt is very, very good for Pokemon like Amoonguss, right? So you have to have all of these moves, in my opinion, in the UU tier, and really only a Choice Band set would be able to run close combat, probably. Anyway, that's the team we're working with today. Let's see those battles. For game 1, we've got a Trick Room team. Trick Room is pretty scary, and my team isn't overly fast or reliant on speed, so I do have some options like Swampert and Tapu Bulu that can punch through Trick Room, but at the same time, my team doesn't have a lot of answers for Trick Room Pokemon. So for instance, if I had a Pokemon with Taunt, that would be very, very useful to deal with Trick Room, but I don't. So when it comes to a lead matchup, what am I going to go with? I'm not really sure. Swampert is, however, a really safe Pokemon against my opponent's team. They don't really have anything that they want to deal with it. I can Toxic the Slowking, the Cresselia, and the Porygon. Marowak, of course, doesn't want to stay in. Crawdaunt doesn't trade favorably against a defensive Swampert. And finally, Torkoal really doesn't like Earth Power, so I figure Swampert is a pretty safe lead. So I'm going to lead with Swampert if they lead with Porygon. I know Porygon's going to go for Trick Room, so I'm going to Toxic it. And actually, instead of going for Trick Room, it goes for Foul Play. I have absolutely no clue why that is. Here, I'm just going to stay in because I don't know what the heck it's going to do. It is going to go for Trick Room here. I don't really feel like switching out, so I'm just going to stay in. And they teleport out. They leave their Porygon at 50%, which is bad. Here, the Solar Beam is very obvious. This is a Trick Room Torkoal, not a Sunsetter Torkoal. I'm going to make a really bold prediction going to my Skarmory here. I'm going to set up a Spike just so I can start whittling this team down, make sure there's no Focus Sashes. And Skarmory doesn't do too much against my opponent's team, right? Skarmory does have Body Press, which is fine, I guess, against Porygon, but Porygon's already at half health, and the Body Press set isn't like an Iron Defense Body Press set, so I'm not really confident in Skarmory's ability to do too much against my opponent's team. Could I have saved this? Yes, I guess, but what is my switch-in? Don't really have a good switch-in to Marowak, so I'm just going to sack the Skarmory. At this point, I got a Spike up. And now the Trick Room is over, which means I can go to Swampert, scare this out with Earth Power. I should have maybe predicted him to switch, but I don't know how my opponent is going to go. So, Earth Power it is. Cresselia gets to come in. I know it's not going to stay in on another Toxic, so I'm going to Earth Power here, and I'm actually going to trade with the Crawdont, and they lose their Crawdont, which I think is a pretty good trade for me. Swampert is a problem for my opponent, but Crawdont is always a problem for Trick Room. And the Marowak can just take me out here. Hydreigon should live any one hit, and I expect my opponent to know this, and this is a big misplay, because I could have Dark Pulsed there, and his Marowak would have been dead. I should have Dark Pulsed, and his Marowak would have been dead. I would have figured you would have gone into maybe a specially defensive Porygon so that you could get up a Recover and a Trick Room. That would have made a lot of sense to me. But if I had just Dark Pulsed here, then his Marowak would not have been a threat, and he would have had barely any offensive presence left on his Trick Room team. So this was a major misplay on my part. Now I know Trick Room is going to be over. The problem is I can't stop Trick Room from going back up. So they're going to go to Porygon 2 here. I'm going to be able to easily one-shot them with Thunderbolt. I know that the Marowak is Rockhead, not Lightning Rod, so I can lock into Thunderbolt, no problem. It's my strongest move. Cressella's going to Healing Wish the Marowak back up. So the Marowak's going to come back in and get all the way back up to full. And I'm not sturdy on this. But they go for Bone Meringue, which is a really bad misplay. Now, they've already seen that I'm analytic, not sturdy, because their Porygon 2 traced my ability. So they should know that I'm not sturdy. So Bone Meringue wasn't necessary to break a sturdy. Bone Meringue is 4 times super effective, but Flare Blitz isn't any drawback play because Bone Meringue is not stab. Flare Blitz is stronger than Bone Meringue naturally and is stab and is still super effective. So really Flare Blitz should have been their play there 100 times out of 100, and I would have lost the Pokemon and probably lost the game as well. So I don't know why they decided to go for Bone Meringue, but that misplay allows me to stay in this game, and I'm able to kill them with Thunderbolt. And at this point, you know, they're going to go for a fire move, that's fine. I'm just going to go for, to sack my Hydreigon, try to waste the last turn Trick Room. At this point, Ina will come out, and Ina is very specially defensive, or at least just has good natural Spidef, and is able to eat any hit. And so now I'm able to actually get a +1 special attack for my Meteor Beam. And at this point, Slowking is not going to be Assault Vest, and it doesn't have enough bulk to live any hit. Now, if this had been Psyshock Flamethrower, then that could have been a problem, especially with the sun up. But fortunately, they go for Scald, and that's GG. So it's game 1, it's Trick Room. Welcome to the UU tier. It's going to be a rough one from here, boys. Alright, for game 2, we've got an offensive team here. They've got Gyarados, they've got Crocodile, they've got a bunch of mons that can set up and be really threatening. So we've got to be on the lookout for that. Now Swampert would be a pretty good lead matchup for me. The only problems really would be Gyarados maybe with Power Whip. And their own Swampert looks pretty good against me besides the Tapu Bulu. Right, it does well against Magneton, it does well against my Ina, and even Skarmory doesn't really do too much to Swampert. So I feel like maybe they would lead with their own Swampert, or maybe they would lead with Crocodile, right? They want to get up Stealth Rock early in the game. That would make sense, start chipping away at my team so that they can start sweeping later on. So I'm going to actually lead off with Tapu Bulu here to try to scare out those ground types. And they're going to lead off with Scizor, which is not what I expected at all. So I'm going to go into my Skarmory here. They're going to set up a Swords Dance, which is a really premature play. Here, I'm just going to Whirlwind them out. Don't want any of that. They go Thundurus, which is unfortunate. Swampert's pretty safe to come in, though. So at this point, I'm just going to flip turn. I did not expect them to Nasty Plot there, though. At this point, I have to go for Meteor Beam if I want to kill, which is a bit premature, because I know they have Scizor in the back, but I didn't want them to stay and be scary. At this point, I see leftovers, so I'm safe to click Grass Knot. They don't scout that, and the Crocodile goes down. So I'm pretty pleased about that. But now they're going to go into Scizor. They're going to Bullet Punch here 100%. So I'm going to go Magneton, and now they think that they're trapped because Magneton's usually at the Trapper set. And I get off tons of damage with Thunderbolt, which is really good. Swampert's pretty obviously going to come out now. I'm going to go into my Skarmory. I'm just going to start setting up a Spike. This is going to force them to go into the Tentacruel to Rapid Spin it away. And I get off some Rocky Helmet Chip, which is nice. At this point, I can go into my Magneton. Magneton has a bit more Spidef, so it should be able to take at least 1 or 2 hits from Tentacruel. And now they should go into Thundurus, so I'm going to click Toxic. Do not expect Protect on the Tentacruel, So I'm going to have to be switching out here. But they actually go into the Pokemon I thought that they would go into, which is sort of funny. If they set up another nasty plot, I'm just going to click Ice Beam, because I can 2 KO them and they don't have anything to hit me with. So I will take that trade, because now they have lost one of the more scary offensive mons. Swampert going to come out, have to switch out. I actually went to Magneton there on purpose, because if I had gone other Pokemon, I could have gone into Gyarados, which would have been really annoying. But the Swampert specifically the Magneton specifically scared out the Gyarados and invited in the Swampert, which is a more passive Pokemon. So that's what my logic was there. They're going to go for Earthquake here. They could have gone for a Flip Turn on my Magneton. There was no way I stayed in there, and that would have been a good play. Here I go for Zen Headbutt, and this is a bit of a misplay on my part. Zen Headbutt wasn't a very strong play, because the Scizor can come in, Scizor can click Bullet Punch, which is a problem. It's offensive Scizor, so it's going to do a lot of damage. The reason we went for Zen Headbutt there is because I thought, well, they should go Tentacruel on my Tapu Bulu. If I click Horn Leech and they have Liquid Ooze, that's going to reduce my health quite a bit. I don't want to have that happen. So I'm going to predict them to go into their Tentacruel. However, they went into their Scizor. So this was not a good play on my part. I could have just taken the damage from Liquid Ooze. It wouldn't have been the end of the world. I'll still have my Tapu Bulu, and it'll be available for the Swampert, which is the only mon on the team that really beats 1v1. So that's really what I should have done. Zen Headbutt, bad play on my part. In any case, I get bailed out here because this is always going to get paralyzed, and I'm able to Horn Leech kill it. So I should have just gone Horn Leech there before. Bad play on my part. I'm going to go into their Gyarados now, and I don't want it setting up on me. So I'm going to go for Stone Edge, and I fortunately land. If I hadn't landed there, it might have been GG right there. Stone Edge one-shots. Now I'm going to switch out, because they go into the mon I should have been going into. They're going to go for Rapid Spin there, which is fair. And I should be able to get off a strong, nice hit. But they actually get a Scald crit here. I believe that crit mattered. And so now I'm forced to go into Swampert. Swampert can go for Earth Power. If it were Earthquake, it would be stronger against this Tentacruel, because Tentacruel has good Spadef. But we'll go for Earth Power. They actually go for Sludge Bomb here, which is a really weird play. Maybe thinking that I'd go into Tapu Bulu or something. I had no reason to do that, and I'm actually able to take them out, which is really nice. But it's just toxic their own Swampert at this point. It doesn't matter, because I can just go into Tapu Bulu and Horn Leech. So the end game in this was really weird. In fact, the entire game was really weird. My opponent's team was quite scary, but they didn't really play it to the best of its ability, because they insisted on setting up at every opportunity, which was really weird, right? Why are you setting up with your Scizor when I have a Skarmory? Never should do that. Setting up with your Thundurus when you don't have Grass Knot against my Swampert means that I'm just going to be able to kill you. And I know that Ice Beam isn't standard on Swampert, but I always had the option of going out into my Hydreigon as well. So they didn't really have a favorable position to set up at that point. So I don't know why they were wasting their time doing that. And then the end game was also quite weird. They sludge bombed my Swampert when I didn't really need it at that point. And of course, I made my own misplay with the Zen Headbutt play. But overall, made it out there alive. So pretty pleased with that. Next up, we've got a very powerful team with a lot of scary Pokemon. They've got Noivern, which you never quite know what it wants to do. They've got Darmanitan, which is a very powerful Pokemon and can get a lot of damage off, as well as Crawdon. Both of those are really good at punching holes. And then they've got Defensive Backbone, which can be pretty annoying. So we're going to have to play around with that. Now, when it comes to the lead matchup, I don't really know what they're going to lead off with. So I'm going to lead off with Hydreigon just for a Choice Scarf. At this point, because they led off with a Darmanitan, it could be Choice Scarf Darmanitan, but I do outspeed that by just a couple points because I'm Choice Scarfed myself. So I'm going to just throw off a Draco Meteor. I don't know if they're going to stay in, don't know if they're going to switch out, but one thing I do know is that I want the Darmanitan dead. So I'm just going to go for Draco Meteor here, does a passable amount to Amoonguss. I'm going to go into Skarmory as Sleep Fodder as they switch into Darmanitan. At this point, I'm actually going to sack the Skarmory to get the Darmanitan dead. So Flare Blitz is going to do a lot, but because of Rocky Helmet Chip and recoil damage, they're going to be super low, and I'm going to roost there, but they kill me, so it's fine. Here they go into Claydol, so I have to switch out, and here they go for Stealth Rock. I know they're going to switch. I feel like they're going to go into Noivern, so I Stone Edge. That actually does way more to Amoonguss than I thought. Here I'm going to go for Zen Headbutt in case they stay in. They go into Claydol. Good thing they switched because I missed. Here I'm going to Horn Leech, and they actually don't switch for whatever reason, and I'm able to one-shot them, so that's really good on my part. Now at this point they're going to go into the Noivern. I'm going to have to switch out here. They're going to Magneton in case they go for Hurricane. They're actually going to U-turn out, which is fair enough. And at this point, they don't really switch in well to Magneton. I'm going to Volt Switch out because I don't want this Pokemon going to sleep, because it's so good against the rest of their team. I'm going to Swampert as Sleep Fodder, and they click Giga Drain. That was a Magneton. What were you predicting to come in? I don't understand. Nothing that comes in is going to be good against that. Now they click Toxic, so I feel like they're just clicking buttons. So I'm going to Flip Turn out, predicting them to maybe click Giga Drain again at this point. Back into Magneton, and they click Toxic again. So I really don't know what my opponent is doing. It's opposite day in their world. So they're not going to click Spore. I'm just going to click Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon is going to do 70% to the Crawdonk coming in. So that's bad for them. It's going to do almost 70 to the Mandibuzz, and that 2 shots the Mandibuzz. At this point, they're going to go Noivern. I'm going to Scout for sure. Don't want them to click Flamethrower or anything bad like that. Swampert's outlived its usefulness. Now they're -2 from Draco Meteor. I can switch back into my Magneton and throw off another Flash Cannon, because we've seen it just completely wrecks their team. Crawdonk gets sacked here, which is really good because it could have had Aqua Jet and been annoying. I'm going to Scout again, see what they want to do here. I'm going to sack Hydreigon. Does not beat Amoonguss, and it could have been nice against Noivern maybe, but I don't really care because I have other tools for Noivern. Once again, going to go into Magneton. If they have Flamethrower, they never showed it, and I can just click Flash Cannon at this point, and they have nothing for it. So Flash Cannon again. Now they're going to go to Noivern. At this point, Magneton has done its job. They click Hurricane, and I live, so I could have killed them at this point, but because, it's Pokemon, I hit myself in confusion, but that means the Ina can come out, and Sludge Wave is the safest move I can go for. It will kill. No point going for Meteor Beam when it can miss, and so I'm just going to finish them off with a Sludge Wave. Alright, for the final game today, we've got a bit of a longer one. This game shows what happens when you make really bad misplays at the beginning of the game. So here we've got a Trick Room team. I'm going to lead off with Magneton because Hatterene is pretty obvious that they're going to go into Hatterene, or maybe Dusclops or Porygon, but they're going to lead off with the Trick Roomer. And Magneton can Volt Switch out and see what's up. Now, this Hatterene could always be Focus Sash, but at the very least, Flash Cannon would be a pretty safe play here because it hits Hatterene for very hard, hits Bulu hard, and they have absolutely no resists. Crawdonk's not a resist. We saw from the previous game it's going to take 60-70% depending on its EV spread. So really, there's no reason for me not to click Flash Cannon here. If I click Volt Switch, predicting maybe that they would have a Focus Sash, they're going to click Trick Room here. And then here's my second big misplay. I just sacked my Ina for nothing. And I knew that Hatterene would have a Psychic move, right? They run Psychic move, they run a Fairy move, and they run a Fire move, right? Mystical Fire. But why would I stay in? I can Scout for that. I have my Spadef Swampert. So I should have always gone Swampert there. That would have been a far superior play. And there's absolutely no reason why I should have stayed in on that. Now, if they hadn't had Psy Shock, if they had Psychic, maybe I could have lived that and I would have been able to kill them with Sludge Wave. But I really think that was a very bad play on my part. Now, to be fair, Ina does not do well against this team. It's very good for Tapu Bulu, but not under Trick Room. And Crawdon has Aqua Jet, and Conkeldurr has Mach Punch, and it doesn't beat Porygon, and it doesn't beat Dusclops. So it's not like it does it that much against this team. but it always would have been another sack later on, or it could have been a different option given certain situations. So to do sack it like that was a really bad misplay. So I've already made 2 major misplays. Imagine if I had clicked Flash Cannon turn 1, and the Hatterene would have been dead, and they would have had to have gone into another Trick Room. And so really there was no, or I guess maybe Conkeldurr. There was no reason for me to have not clicked Flash Cannon turn 1, and that's going to make this game a lot longer than it needs to be. Hatterene is sitting here being fat, getting all its health back. I'm going to click Volt Switch again because I feel like there's no way they stay in. And once again, they do stay in. Once again, could have just gone to my Swampert and Spidef. Should have gone into that. Here, I'm going to go for Earth Power, which was not a great play either. Should have just clicked Flip Turn. I'm going to Skarmory on the Bulu, which I think is fair. At this point, I can't click Spikes because they do have a Hatterene. But if I double switch into Magneton, then if they go Hatterene, I can get off a Flash Cannon there. They go into Porygon 2, which is safer, I suppose. At this point, I'm just going to click Thunderbolt. And I don't want to necessarily let this Porygon stay in and get all its health back, so I'm going to stay in. But they're going to Conkeldurr, so I'm going to have to go to my Skarmory. And Skarmory is really going to have to be putting in overtime to beat this Conk. So fortunately, I get a favorable roll on the second one, and I'm able to live the Drain Punch. I'm going to be able to roost off this damage at this point. So that's really good. I need to go Hatterene, and I'm going to roost again. Now I'm going to go for a Whirlwind because I don't want to stay in here. And the Whirlwind is going to bounce me out into my Swampert, which is good. Here I'm going to Flip Turn out into the Tapu Bulu. So this is a bit of a fancy footwork play. We'll try to get in the right Pokemon. Skarmory is going to come in now. Now, at this point, once again, I'm going to Whirlwind myself out, which is maybe overly fancy, but it does the job. Here, once again, I'm going to just Flip Turn out. They go to Crawdaunt, which is fair enough, predicting that. But I have Skarmory, and Skarmory can easily beat this. They're going to get off damage on me and get rid of my Rocky Helmet, which is really favorable for them because now I can't beat the Conk 1v1 in that context. But at the same time, they just lost their Crawdaunt. I'm going to heal up because I have to have my health on the Skarmory, and they're going to go for Trick Room again, which is fair. So now I'm back at full health, which is really good. I'm going to go into my Swampert, and they're not going to be able to touch me again. So now you can sort of see that we've gotten sort of stuck into a play loop where the Swampert is forced to come in. Here I'm just going to go into my Hydreigon. Probably should not have done that because it made them go for Draining Kiss, which means they actually get health back. I should have gone into something that more like Magneton, right, to force the fire move. So that was not a good play. Here I should have Flip Turned, but I did not, which, you know, another misplay on my part. So I'm going to be forced to go into my Skarmory on the Tapu Bulu. And now at this point, we're just sort of stuck waiting for my opponent to make a misplay for me to make a big misplay. I'm going to go for Whirlwind out. Doesn't really do too much, but it does prevent the Porygon from getting recovery for whatever that's worth. Magneton's going to get a bit of recovery here from the grassy terrain, which is going to be very useful later on. I'll go back into my Swampert on the Mystical Fire. Pretty obvious. Gotta wait for all the grassy terrain and leftovers to happen. Porygon's going to come out on the Swampert. I'm going to Flip Turn out, and so I'm actually okay with the Porygon coming in here. Now here I go into Hydreigon, which is a really bad play on my part. Why did I go into Hydreigon? I should have gone into something that actually threatened the Porygon, but I didn't because I'm dumb. Here they go for Ice Beam, and they get the Freeze. Now this is a really big turn because what I was doing here is you can see that we had one turn of Trick Room left. Here I went for SD. If I go for Swords Dance here, I'm going to be +2, and I can sweep through the rest of their team, right? I'm a Fairy type, so I don't care about Conkeldurr's Mach Punch. Horn Leech is going to do lots against Dusclops. Maybe I would switch against Dusclops, scouting for Will-O-Wisp. But besides that, it's going to beat the Hatterene. At +2, I can outdamage the Tapu Bulu on the opposing side, and it will do tons of damage to the Porygon. So that was why we went for Tapu Bulu here. It's because I can get the SD off, and I can start breaking through a lot of the members on their team. But because they get the Freeze there, I'm actually not going to be able to do that. Here I'm going to try to Thaw on their Trick Room, and at this point, who knows when I'll Thaw, so I'm just staying in. I'm actually able to thaw, and I get off a healthy chunk with my Horn Leech, which means that now I'm back in the game. So I might as well save Tapu Bulu. I'm going to go into my Magneton because they've shown at this point that they only have Ice Beam, and I can resist that, of course. And so now I'm going to be able to throw off a analytic boosted Flash Cannon. I'm going to switch out, don't want to die to Ice Beam as they recover. Fair enough. At this point, I go for Toxic and I miss because, we got to drag this game out even further. I'm going to flip turn here, predicting them to maybe go into Hatterene on another Toxic, but they don't. I'm going to go to Tapu Bulu here just to get a bit of recovery and to get recovery on the rest of my Pokemon. We go to Dusclops, which, fair enough, I'm a physical attacker. Maybe we could have done that a while ago. I want to get this Dusclops whittled down, so I'm going to go for Toxic. They Toxic me, which is actually pretty important, but as long as I can wrap this game up quickly, I should be okay. I'm going to go Hydreigon here, because Dark type move, pretty easy to throw off here. I'm not going to over-predict. I actually get a flinch, and that sort of makes up for the freeze from before, because it stops a Trick Room from going up. So now I think we're more even. Alright, they got the freeze before, I got the flinch. That's fair. I'm going to go for Dark Pulse, because I know they're not going to go for Draining Kiss. They're going to go for Trick Room here. I want to get off some damage. Now I'm going to go back into my Swampert as they go for Draining Kiss, which is fair. So we're stuck back in the Hatterene Swampert loop. Go for Draining Kiss again, which is probably what they should have been doing before, because my Swampert's getting pretty low now. I'm going to go into Tapu Bulu, start getting a bit of recovery back. I'm healing the Hatterene back, but as long as my Tapu Bulu is getting healthier, we should be okay. And it also helps my Swampert stay healthy. So that was sort of what the game plan was there. Now we only have one turn of Trick Room left, which means that I should be able to flip turn out here, and they can't really do anything against my Magneton. So we're going to go into Magneton, get a little bit of grassy terrain, and this time we're going to click the Flash Cannon. Not going to make the same mistake again. So Hatterene's finally gone, and now Porygon's going to come out and try to do his Trick Room thing. We have one turn of grassy terrain recovery left, which allows me to live an Ice Beam from the Porygon too. And at this point, because now I'm slower, my analytic boosted Flash Cannons are going to do a passable amount. It's only, 40% or something, so it's not a ton. But the point is to keep the Porygon low so that we can kill it. They actually predicted me to switch, and they go for recover there. And so I'm actually able to KO the Porygon. So now they're out of Trick Room, which is really good. I'm going to save this for the Bulu. I'm going to go into my Skarmory. Skarmory's job is to deal with the Conch Elder. Here I go for Spike, which was not a good play on my part. Should have body pressed or boosted or done anything, because that actually allows the Conch to get a lot of health back and then to be at a pretty healthy amount. So definitely a misplay on my part. Zen Headbutt does not kill. Alright, if I had body pressed there, then we would have been in business. The grassy terrain is going to allow him to live the burn, unfortunately. And here I just go into Swampert to sack it. Don't know why I did that. I was mostly just struggling. But the Hydreigon actually lives the Mach Punch, and that was the thing I was worried about. I figured at this point I had lost the game because I had thrown it. But fortunately the Hydreigon just barely lives. And this is sort of just a weird capstone to this game. So Tapu Bulu comes out, I'm just sacking Hydreigon. And I'm actually going to be able to flinch down this Tapu Bulu. At the end of the day, it did not matter. This was a Trick Room Tapu Bulu. My Magneton would have outsped and one-shot it with the Flash Cannon. So the flinching at the end did not matter. What did matter was me not body pressing with my Skarmory against the Conch Elder. If I had done that, then the Zen Headbutt from the Tapu Bulu would have easily killed even max HP Conch Elder, which is what that was, which is what it should be because it's Trick Room. And even maybe it would have been in range of Horn Leech, which would have been a safer move to go for anyway. So really I should have body pressed there. So I made a couple of major misplays in this game that almost cost me the game on multiple occasions. First of all, Flash Cannon turn 1. Flash Cannon turn 1, they don't have Hatterene. They just straight up, that takes off like 20 or 30 turns from this game. Definitely should have clicked Flash Cannon. Even if they were a Focus Sash, which I don't really know too much about how Trick Room is ran, because I usually stay away from Trick Room. But even if they were Focus Sash, it still would have brought them down to Focus Sash, and then I could have played it from there. and then going into Swampert as opposed to going into Nihilego would have been a way better play. It is Spadef, Swampert, there's no reason for me to not have not gone into that. So that was my second misplay. And then the final misplay, of course, is not body pressing with my Skarmory. I predicted them to switch into Tapu Bulu, but there's really no reason for them to do that. They could have gone for Drain Punch predicting me to Roost, in which case that means that I should just body press. Really, that's all I should have done. If I had done that, and the end game would have been not too bad. So those are just some lessons that you and I can take from the games that we're playing. You know, I'm not going to make the best plays all the time. I'm learning this game just like everybody else is, and so I've got to add these tricks to the back of my head, try to remember that they're there. But this team overall, I think, isn't too bad. The Magneton, I think, actually put in a lot of work, and this actually ended up being more Magneton's showcase more than anything else. The Hydreigon definitely didn't do as much, but also I think that I was finding a lot of Trick Room and not a lot of times where the Choice Scarf had value, except for when I was fighting the Darmanitan, because it did allow me to stay in and throw off a Draco Meteor at the beginning of that game. But aside from that, the Hydreigon probably didn't do too much. The Nihilego did put in work on multiple occasions, so that's fine. The Swampert, of course, is always a good Pokemon. Swampert is just one of the best Pokemons they've ever made. And the Skarmory is doing Skarmory things. So overall, I think it's an okay team. I think Magneton definitely is good, and maybe you should try it in your own teams in the UU tier, see what you can come up with. Anyway, that'll be it for today's Simpin Sunday, and I'll see you next week.